Well, hello everybody, and how are we doing today? I hope we're great and doing well today. So, anyhow, we're going to go ahead and talk about this part here, which of course is our, review of Batman: The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issues 0 and 1. I also like to welcome you to the second episode for this for the live stream, as well as for the second episode of the podcast. I know it's been months apart. Summer really was an extremely busy time. I was not able to do more reviews like I wanted to, and so I had to perhaps here. But I'm hoping here starting today we will be able to do that and provide a lot more here. But otherwise, today we are of course going to review Batman: The Long Halloween here. And as I get everything switched up on the live feed here to, of course, put our sons here, and I'll switch in here as well. Thank you for all of us who are joining us today here on the live stream. Remember to like and subscribe to us. Also, if you like this podcast, please think of that. Also, think of joining our Patreon page. It's brand new, ready to go here. And I'll have that going on at the time here when you can here. So you can join our Patreon page at the Pixel Classroom on patreon.com. But today we're going to go ahead and review, honestly, the actually concluding series to the Batman: The Long Halloween saga, which is hard to believe it was 28 years ago was the original. I remember, um, you know, 18-year-old kid fresh out of high school. I had just gotten back in the comics a couple years beforehand in 94 and 96. This was launching. It was a very 11 piece on this. And I actually checked it out. I didn't buy the original issues. I had a couple friends that were reviewing, and I was able to at the time too. There was a comic shop in my local town where you could actually go in on a Friday night. And as long as you bought one comic, you were allowed to read two comics. So I would always read the Batman: The Long Halloween issues there on a Friday night. Usually didn't have much to do. I was my freshman year in college, so I was able to do that. The shop closed down about a year and a half later. Sadly, it was in business for 20 years. I miss Downtown Comics. They were a great place in here and really kind employees and everything else too. And the owner was fantastic. But yeah, he allowed me to do that, so I really wrote up on that. I did get into Dark Victory years later. I sadly had to sell my collection for financial reasons back in 2008, but I was able to eventually get the absolute condition for Batman: The Long Halloween, and it is still continued now 28 years later, still my favorite Batman story. So I'm going to go ahead and review issues 0, which of course was the prelude issue, and which was out released on the 25th anniversary back in 2021, which was by our good buddies Jeph Lobe and Tim Sale, who, as we know, passed away a couple years ago. Before they had to even really had plotted out the entire storyline, everything else, things that would change here. So I'm going to review issue 0, which, like I said, was out there too here. Final issue on that, which was really a concept in 2017, and then of course was released in 2021 in October for the 25th anniversary. I'm going to go into a full piece of the review here with the pros and cons for both issues, and then the upcoming issue here for issue 2 that's getting released here in about 2 weeks, believe it or not, just the Wednesday before Halloween on October 30th. So it's kind of cool here because the last Halloween, as it's called here, is actually the conclusion to the saga of The Long Halloween, which of course started in 1996, followed by the Dark Victory one here, which also introduces the year 1 of Robin and the sequel to it. And this is pretty much the end solution, as well as tying in everything from Catwoman, Why in Rome, which was a side mini series that was taking place during Batman Dark Victory back in the early 2000s. So let's kind of get into this, everybody, should we? So like I said, everybody else, I hope you have some time and everything else too. So let's get into Batman: The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue 0, prelude issue. This was released in time for the 25th anniversary in 2021. It was re-released here just recently here with the release of issue 1 here in September. It was written by Jeph Lobe and art by Tim Sale. This is actually his last pretty much official perm before he passed away. And it was set over. So let's go ahead and get into what this is here. And I got my issues ready to go here. So let's go ahead and set it up here. So what is it? Well, Last Halloween issue 0, or prelude to here for the anniversary piece here, basically opens up with actually in the sewer layers of what had happened. But believe it or not, Two-Face, who has recently been everything, has rescued his wife, Glinda, who of course was revealed at the end of The Long Halloween. It was really the holiday killer. She was taking care of the Falcone family one by one, using the different information, hoping to have a family with Harvey. And of course, that didn't quite go right. And of course, that led to one of the Falcones who was supposedly because Harvey tried taking him out to do it. So what's happened is Batman's been checking up. Julian Day, better known as the Calendar Man, has actually started a type of cult, believe it or not. It's a very high criminal religious cult, which is very cool. One thing the Batman Long Halloween's really done really well is really do the Calendar Man and a very scary kind of Hannibal Lecter here too. So they basically get in there trying to figure out what had happened, and what we find out is they have rescued Gilda and everything else from for Harvey here, and of course they're talking about the little areas, and of course Bruce is trying to distract a little bit here because they found out with Halloween approaching, there's of course parts on the Halloween, so they're actually going through the different months and everything, which are doing different jewels, which they're kind of getting the area to, and of course Robin is on this too. And what happens is we're finding out that of course Julian Day is of course eliminating members of his cult that of course are not helping to him. And what has happened is, believe it or not, Two-Face and Glinda have actually gotten a house very similar to their own, which is outside of areas too. And of course, he tracks them down, trying to get everything, and of course, kidnaps Glinda. And of course, Harvey, of course, works in the pieces here to, of course, get Batman's attention by destroying the bat signal and getting his attention to, of course, save Gilda from everything, which, of course, he's held up in an old church in there. And of course, Robin and Batman go out to fight him. And of course, it gets revealed that one of the cult members is actually really Two-Face, and he basically comes in when Solomon Grundy takes out majority of the Calendar Man cult, leaves a bomb with Solomon Grundy to destroy their area, and then of course races off with Gilda, and of course has used Batman, and of course they finds out that of course everything as he was had, and the two of them head off into the moonlight night here, wondering, as Batman says, is this is not over, that the Dents have a secret. Julian Day knew it as well, and I'm afraid we're going to know it too. So there's something that's going on that Batman definitely figures like is going on here. So we're kind of really on that. So that's how issue 0, the prelude issue, actually ends. So the pros on this really feels like the original saga never ended. It was really one thing that was a big part in Batman Dark Victory was at that point, we know Gilda Dent had left Gotham. We don't know where or when. And Harvey had actually hooked up with one of his old classmates years ago from law school. And they were kind of doing that as he was trying to take out more of the Falcone family that had died after the Roman was killed. The artwork is just fantastic. I mean, I have the original issue, and this is the prelude issue I talking about here too. But I mean, it's just great. Tim Sale's work, it never had things. It's fantastic. I feel like it's really honoring the pieces of the memories and everything, even though this is a reprint, and it's just beautiful. I love his art. I love Gilda returning, and I really like the Callan Maryland. I always thought he was zing. You know, you got to remember, from a guy who got out of comics around 1990 and then jumped back to him in 94 after a lot of crazes in high school. I thought people like Kite Man, Calendar Man, certain other DC and Marvel villains were probably really just ridiculous and stupid, but you know, they're products of their time. And the Long Halloween made Julian Day, the Calendar Man, extremely freaky, scary character, and how he was used for the different holidays, for the Holiday Killer, and how the different themes were working, and it really worked into a great hand. Seeing him what he is now with his cult, it's just scary. And it works so well. The artwork in the story is great. I really like the little mystery that's going on, that, you know, how Two-Face used Batman to rescue his wife and then go through everything, as well as them leading into here, which we'll get to issue 0. Cons is, it did feel like it was a little rushed at times. Like, you know, originally this was released as an anniversary issue, as well as a prelude to the Lost Halloween, because the last Halloween, which was going to happen before Tim Sale passed away not long after. So, you know, they had everything set up. There's also there's a little thing when they're doing trick or treating, which I'll talk more about. Issue 1 actually does have a point to it, but some of the things between a young Barbara Gordon here is dressed up like Batgirl, even though she's not Batgirl yet, because this takes place quite a couple of years before Barbara becomes Batgirl, even before Batgirl Year 1. And Robin, I think they were trying to do an establishment of their relationship, which I'm going to give a nod into, because honestly, I think Barbara and Dick are honestly my favorite couple in the DC comics, outside Rick Tyler and Jesse Quick. So they're in there. It just feels like it was kind of a little bit decent to have, especially on Halloween night with her dressed up as Batgirl. We know she's going to become Batgirl in a couple of years, and it kind of is like, well, duh, kind of thing too. And the fact is, you know, this storyline does basically take place 3 years later. Dark Victory was set about a year later after basically within a year later of everything that happened. These were real-time stories, both The Long Halloween and Dark Victory. So we got a lot of pieces there too. And it is 3 years later, and here Batman's still wondering, like, well, maybe I shouldn't have a partner. I shouldn't have dragged, Dick Grayson into all of this. And, maybe I shouldn't have done this. It's kind of hard having a partner. So it's not bad here, but it's also interesting to the way the storyline is kind of getting into it. So the fact that we got this, a couple years later for that, and the fact is, we are finally getting the storyline, which we understand. There was no control over it, over Tim Sale passing away. The fact that they decided to go forward with the story, even though it was all plotted out, the covers were all done. The fact that there's some great artists work here. I can't wait to get into issue 1 here too. But that was little things. Is we get into this. It really wish we could have gotten this a lot sooner, but I know that had to deal with circumstances nobody could control or see. So it was good, but like I said, we're in a couple of storylines where it's like we're trying to kip in here, and it's like a little part on that. So let's, on that note, go on to issue number 1. I'll get my grades later on. Don't worry, everybody. So we're going to go into issue number 1, which of course was released last month. Like I said, issue 2 here is in a couple weeks. At the time of the recording here, this is October 11th. So right now here, this is by Jeph Lobe with art by Eduardo Riso. It was released September 2024, and it is titled Issue 1 Law. All the ones, usually the first issues were by month, like October, and November, and finishing like that. And then Dark Victory was the different plot areas too. So now we're kind of getting into it. So trick is everything is we have to do with the parts on that. Don't worry about the little trick in it that deals with an old law joke I was kind of throwing in there. So if nobody gets the little joke, then dance a favorite song for 30 seconds. It's a law joke. I'm not going to go into that. So sorry it was there, guys. If anybody gets my humor, please leave me a comment on this one. So let's get in to issue 1. So introduction is here. My issue right here. So how it starts off is we're back into the dents here in the sewer lab here, Two-Face and Gilda here, and they're talking about all the difference about the crimes sort, including the holiday Karens and where that finds them. And of course, at that point, Commissioner Gordon, of course, is having trick-or-treating with his family. His son James is out trick-or-treating. He's dressed like Batman. Well, after he gets, of course, phone call. I do like how they did this with the old-fashioned cell phones here, but he gets called about things that are going on about a situation by Lopez, and James is kidnapped. He's just kidnapped right in the middle of the rain and the weather, everything, and the only thing that's left over is his umbrella and his candy jack-o'-lantern. And in that meantime, we find out both Batman and Robin, of course, are checking out the last old penthouse of course, things of that Mario Falcone, who of course was the last of the Falcones. When we had seen him in Dark Victory, he basically burned down the old mansion and he went to Italy. And what happens is he recently had jumped back in here and basically taken over, and he's trying to make Falcone Imports be legit company from things from Europe. So they're keeping an eye on him because Catwoman has, of course, jumped there with Mario, and of course finding out that she, as we know, she's actually the illegitimate daughter of the Falcone family, and she notices the picture of her mother and Falcone, that there's the painting has been changed. The fact it's hiding, she originally had a baby in her hand and now it's been changed, and she's asking Mario, what happened to this, and she says, it was changed, but I've put it back to this one. And he says, you'll be all time, and basically asks, why did you break in here tonight? You'll find out later on why I've done this area. And what happens is Robin chases Catwoman, and she uses her bolo whip to actually get him, and he starts choking, and Batman basically loses it, but of course Robin escapes and lands on his feet. However, when they're going there too, they find out that someone apparently shot at Catwoman. They see her falling. However, when they get there, there's no Catwoman, but they found a broken jack-o'-lantern, and of course the copycat .22 pistol with a smash bone, basically a copycat of the holiday killings. And he's, Robin's asking him like, well, how do you know that Catwoman didn't get shot and maybe she just ran away? He's like, because this is a close range weapon. So whatever is going on here, this is very personal. And then he says, well, maybe she shot herself. And she's like, no, she wouldn't do that, because honestly, there's something more into this. So he decides to go and they get alerted that Gordon needs to see them. So that happens there. They go find out that, James has been kidnapped, and, Gordon says that they're going to get it out there with Lopez, and they're going to find their son and figure out why he was kidnapped, of all places, Holiday. Meanwhile, these two clown henchmen actually break in to the Harvey Dent's hideout in the sewers here, actually takes out Solomon Grundy, throws him into the sewers, because we all know he'll always be back. And of course they shoot Harvey, and then they basically says, why are you here within? And one of the clouds starts removing his masks and says, well, we're going to talk about Holiday, Gilda Dent, or this will be your last Halloween. It ends with Harvey shot and injured. Gilda had him, and the mask has been taken off. So they see who's behind the mask, but we don't, and that's to be continued. It ends on a really great cliffhanger. I really like whoever these two clowns are. I mean, in a way, it's a nod to the Joker, to both the movie and to the original henchman, which is really good. And I do like the faction is like, who is behind the mask, because he takes it off and Gilda knows who it is right away. And the fact is, what is with the holiday cats, as well as her conversation with Mario was a very interesting little thing. So it has a really good cliffhanger. It really gets on it. So pros on this. It grabs you. Even though what everything happens, like I said in the issue 0, felt like no time was left. This felt like not much time disappeared from between Harvey and Gilda rolling down the canal here, getting ready for Halloween. And then the fact that, this happens, we get the rainstorm, which was introduced. Mysterious with Catwoman and Mario, where she's telling him like what happened to the original picture. Well, we put the original back. Why is that? Well, in due time. But then he's like, why are you here? And then she quickly sneaks out. Question is, who are the clowns? How do they know where Harvey and Gilda are hiding? Another mystery. Who kidnapped James Gordon Jr.? That's a great work. And then Risso's artwork is fantastic. I mean, if you had to have an issue 1 continuing the art style and the nature of Batman the Long Halloween, he really nailed it. It really did feel very Tim Sale-esque, and it was really good. Cons on it. It's kind of a retrend. We're back to these kind of mysteries here with the holiday. I mean, at least with Dark Victor, when the storyline started, which led to the death of Captain O'Hara in the original by the Hangman, which turned out to be Giante Falcone as the Hangman, and why she was taking out certain people who had betrayed the family, as well as kind of revenge about what happened with the holiday. It made sense. Here we kind of got a question here. Also, like the fact is, we got Batman and Robin. They've been together at least several months now. Robin's very good, like how he gets out from getting hurt. Also, the fact that he technically knows Catwoman would have hurt him, even though he got out of it, and him questioning it. That's kind of a thing by now. They kind of should know. I mean, they're still young partners here, but I think Bruce should know that Dick can, help himself here. We don't have anything on the calendar called. That was like talked about, but there's nothing on it. It's like there feels like there was no fallout after what happened. I mean, granted, we got 9 more issues. I'm not that one, but there was really nothing after such a cool introduction and everything, and the mystery. It feels like that didn't really have any part of the story. Maybe it will be. We'll find out, but no. Also with the copycat for Holiday, when we found out, yes, we get it, and yes, the Hangman was the other one, but we're kind of getting back to that now. I mean, now in this universe, Bruce Wayne's been Batman for at least 2-3 years. He's kind of moving more towards the world's greatest detective, but he's still having his issues because he's more emotional tie with Robin, which I understand too. But the fact is, like I said, Catwoman disappears. He has no idea. He sees the Holiday copycat, the fact that it happened on Halloween, and the fact that, Jim Gordon's son was kidnapped. It's kind of leading kind of a like, well, we're kind of getting that whole little mystery killer on the side, but we don't know. I mean, we see the gun, we see the broken Janlanger, which is basically a copycat of what happened in the original Long Halloween. So we're kind of getting to that mystery bad guy and who it is. And like I said, we have the building blocks for it, but it's like we're right back to having that kind of story again. So, I mean, it wasn't good, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this issue. I felt it was better than actually the Prelude issue, especially, Tim Sale's not on this. He played on it, but he passed away. Issue 2 is coming out here in a couple weeks. It's going to be basically them going to Arkham. So we're actually going to go be breaking back in Arkham. I think it has to do with Calendar Man again here. So we will get some more with the cult and everything. So, and that's going to be by Jeph Lobe, of course, writer, and Klaus Janson will be the artwork, which I really like it. Klaus has got a very dark atmosphere to it. And if this is going to be taking place in Arkham, I think he's the perfect artist to kind of do that to it. So I'm really looking for that area too. And that'll be released here in a couple weeks. Like I said, this is recorded on October 11th, 2024. We're 2 weeks away from the release of issue 2 here. So I'm still excited. I really like the story. It's got its little problems, but it's not bad problems. I mean, Dark Victory and Long Halloween both kicked off on really great notes. Catwoman While in Rome, which was the prequel series, got you in issue 1, then 2 and 3 were kind of okay, and then 4, and then the rest kind of like made the story and it all put together perfectly. But so it's really good to be in this. I mean, I'm glad I'm getting it, and all these years later I'm actually still enjoying it too. So it's really good. So what did I think out of all these issues after everything here? I think it's pretty much set on all this, but basically I'm going to give issue 0 a perfect 4 stars. I know it was released 3 years ago, but I really, really enjoy it. Felt like No Time to Die. It had its minor question, but it felt like it was a worthy little piece and left it open. I know it's been 3 years since that storyline. Now the story's continuing without Tim, Sale being part of it completely, but we know he's over there. His spirits in the covers are in there. It's really good. Issue 3, issue 2, 1. I'm talking about issue 1. I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. So 3 stars on that too. It still really did well. I thought it continued great from the artwork to the story. It has its minor problems, but it still works pretty good. So an 8 out of 10 here. I'm really excited for the rest of the series. So I think that's really going to be a really good part on that. So I'm really, really enjoying that part of the story. So I think it'll be pretty great on that. So let me stop sharing my screen here. There we go. So, yeah, that's kind of about it. I've really been parting on everything else too here, but I've really enjoyed this show. So I think that's great here. I got 6 people watching. That's great. But I have no comments. That's all right. So I just want to take it here with Don, with read, especially here on the audio ones that are listening right now, because I'm not going to do too much editing here. But thank you so much for joining me here today. Definitely look for me if you want to join the Patreon page for us here, and think about becoming a member there too. Here, we have early videos and early releases of this taken out. If not, you can see me, of course, if you look on social media. You can find me on Blue Sky at Ryan7Reed here, especially for the Pixel and everyone too. I'm on other social medias. I'll share some of those later, because as of the recording about this, we had some mess ups and some hack on my system, so I don't have too much on. But you can right here and like and subscribe on YouTube channel. Like I said, join our Patreon, or like I said, follow me on Blue Sky at Ryan7Reed. So it's been a great time. I thank everybody for being patient and still supporting us for everything for Reads, as well as part of the Pixel Classroom Network. So I really enjoy here. I intend to be back next month for another review. What to review? Well, let's just say I have a thing, because after all, there's a certain little book about a certain comic from Skybound, and I might have reviewed the first couple issues of the mini series. So that'll be our November issue here, and then we'll revisit the Long Halloween here later on here in Christmas time. I'll go ahead and review issues 2 and 3. And probably 4. At least that's what I'm planning for 2 here. So I'm going to try to keep these monthly here. So we'll be back here for the original G.I. Joe coming up from Skybound Image Comics there next month in November for issue 1 review. And then we'll be back after that, after the holidays, just before the new year, to review the next couple issues of the last Halloween here. So with that said, guys, thank you for joining us today. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day.